Um,
Oh,
hey Paul, can you hear me?
yes, I can. How's it going,
And
buddy?
can you see me?
Good. Yes, I can see you as well. Good
Okay, cool.
morning.
Good morning. Sorry if I was late.
No, it's all right. I messed up on the time. I was just saying I would have hopped on earlier if you wanted to. I wasn't sure if this would mess up your schedule or something.
Yeah, also it's okay. I literally just woke up, but that's okay.
Okay.
My work starts in 2 hours, so I have time.
Okay, you have some time. Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here with me. I know the time difference is a little intense. It's still Sunday afternoon here for me,
Right, what time is it on your end?
3 p.m. on Sunday.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's Monday here.
Yeah, you're literally in the future. So
I'm literally I am in the future. That's right. That's
that's
right.
right. Awesome. All right. Well, I know you have work in a little while, so I kind of just want to hop right in. And just so you know, like I'm going to be taking notes. So if you see me looking off the screen or something like that, it's because I'm taking a lot of notes. So I encourage you, if you want to grab a pen and a paper to take notes as well. So that, you can ask questions or whatever, I'm happy, definitely take notes, definitely ask questions. Because, like I said in our messenger, or what I want to kind of do today is dig a little bit deeper into what you're going through, see, if and how I can help you. And then if I do think that I can, really help you, then we'll talk about what that program looks like, what it would look like you and I working together, and then kind of move forward from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. So, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time to fill out the form, that was helpful. But the first question that I always want to ask is just like, what what made you reach out to me, and why now specifically?
Good question. So I've been following you for a while. That means I'm familiar with your work. Um, and obviously it resonates with me. And that's why I reached out to you directly, because when you're seeking for help, you would want someone you know. So that's for why you, and then as for why now, just recently, so I started this weekend work about 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
In the past, what I would do is I would be so I have this course that I do on the side for programming, for learning how to code.
Mhm.
And the main reason why I'm doing that course is because I want to change my career. And that's because what I do right now, while it's okay, it pays the bills and all, it is not as complex as I wanted it to be. And obviously programming is, and that is something that I think I would want to see myself do in the next at least 5 years. And I was doing okay with that. I would give it time to work on that course because coding takes a lot of practice. It's really hard. And just recently, after I started working on the weekends, I found myself that I'm not prioritizing that course at all. And part of the reason is because, one, when it gets hard, I step away from it for a little bit. And just recently, nowadays, I'm using the excuse that I just don't have the time for it. But if I'm being real, on the weekdays, I work just 4 hours a day. And so I have the remainder of the at least 5 days or 4 days, because I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday on that other place. I have at least 4 days that I can put in at least 2 hours to that coding course. And so yeah, I don't really have any accountability there. And I thought I needed some help with making sure that I get that done. I mean, if I continue, right, I know I will get it done. It's just that it's going to take me a lot longer
Mhm.
than if there was, say, some sort of a code, some sort of a check-in system, and things of that nature.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, sounds like, now that you've taken on a bit more stuff, you're having a little bit more trouble prioritizing and making sure that you're managing your time correctly. And you want to make sure that, even though you could get things done, you get things done in a timely fashion, and you're really making the most out of the time that you have, because, time is everything, really. For sure.
But yeah,
That
that's
makes
the
complete
main.
sense. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
But no, that was the main reason, because I realized even in the past, whenever I've completed things, they were not done on time, or they were left to the last minute.
Mhm.
And when you leave things to the last minute, you kind of don't have a lot of options. You're kind of just, they come at you in your face, and it's either A or B,
Mhm.
and you suffer more, or the quality of the result suffers.
Right. It's kind of like you get like backed into a corner because like right.
Exactly. Sorry.
Right, no problem. No problem. Okay, awesome. So, go, what would then, what would so I understand that, you want to work better time management, you want to, have some accountability, some structure, all these different things. And that's definitely stuff that we can talk about and work about. Like, what is the actual like goal? Or you talked about, there's, we can talk about fitness, we can talk about mindset, you can talk about business. Like, what is like the actual tangible thing that you want to achieve in the next however many months? Like it's one thing to say like I just want to be better, but it's another thing to say like I want to have, finished this course, completed this degree, made X amount of money, build my, my body is, it looks like this or something like that. The more specific that we can get with this stuff, the better, right? We don't end up at a destination we didn't set out for. And that's why a lot of people struggle from the beginning, is because they're like, well, I just want to be better. It's like, but better is so like, it's just so like ephemeral. It's like, I want to be healthy. Well, what is healthy? Does healthy mean vegan? Does it mean keto? Does it mean bodybuilder? Does it mean gymnast? I want to be rich. Does rich mean I work 12 hours a day and make $100 million? Or does it mean I work 1 hour a day and I have enough money to only do that? That they're very different things to different people. So what does that look like in your head?
For me, the most important thing would be to finish my programming course. Health and fitness wise, I'm okay. I eat relatively healthy, but I work out like at least 5 days a week. But nowadays, I used to work out 7 days, but then I started working on the weekend, so I can't do that anymore because that's really intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not anything related to health and fitness. It's more related to my professional career in a sense.
Right. So specifically, when you're so specifically with this programming course, what does that look like? Like what does it mean? What does to finish it mean? Like how long, is there like a time frame that you have to do it in? Is a certain amount of credits or something like that? Like, can you do it faster or slower? Is it like it's going to take 6 months, or is like I can, if I work hard, if I work at it diligently, I can do it in 2 weeks or something like that,
So it's a self-paced online program.
Uh-huh.
There are 16, it's broken down into 16 weeks, but obviously it's going to take more than 16 weeks because some of the weeks, the module or the material in it
Uh-huh.
is a lot more. So far, I have completed 8. And as you go deeper, it gets harder.
Right.
So I'm left with 8 more weeks or 8 more modules, but those are getting really, really hard. Obviously, it can be, I mean, if you do it faster, you can like finish it
Right. But
in
it's not
less
about that.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned before that as it gets harder, that's usually when you tend to kind of
Avoid it.
or something like that. So my question is, how does that impact you? What is the consequence of that? If you continue to avoid it, if we don't get on this call today and you just go about doing things exactly the way that you've been doing, what does that look like, 6 months from now?
So when I think about my life, I say that in 5 years from now, if I'm doing the same things that I'm doing right now, if I'm in the same boat, will I be happy or will I be okay with it? And just thinking that I'll be in the same role that I am right now professionally, I will not be okay with that. I'll kill myself. I mean, I'm not, I mean,
Yeah, I get you.
Because it's a very, so professionally, what I do is I work as a technical support for a software company. It's an okay role, but it's also not very, like anyone can do it, right? And I want to specialize in something. And so for me, if I don't change my roles, at least in the next 1-2 years, that's not good.
This is all right. I'm just writing things down. I think that's super important. I think it's great that you have that ambition and that drive to want more, you know.
Yeah.
But clearly there's a disconnect, because it's like, I want this thing, right? I want to be 5 years, 2 years, even a year from now, I don't want to be in the same place. And yet when I push up against the thing that I need to do to get out of that space, I move around. I do what I call mental gymnastics, where I'm like, oh, well, I'll finish it later. Like, you know, like I talk myself into it, where it's like, oh, it's okay. Like I can just, you know, like I can just do that later. And then like, this is more important. I got, oh, you know, I got to do this. Like, of course I gotta do my laundry, you know, like that's important. You can't not do the laundry. You know, like, right. So I know, I trust me. I know exactly. I know exactly where you're at. So, you know, now I know that this course is like a new thing, and you just kind of like added the second job as well, so that changed it. But in general, this trend of like that, you know, kind of like, again, like time management, not having the best time management, kind of like pushing things off when they get hard, and that kind of stuff. Like, is that something that you've seen from yourself in the past? Is this like something that you've dealt with, you know, in other situations as well?
So I used to always think that I'm the best hard worker and all that other stuff about myself, until I started this course. So I started this course last year. And that's when I realized that, hey man, I have this issue, and when it gets hard, I tend to avoid it, because who likes to get, because programming, what happens is you get stuck on a problem, and it can, I mean, since I'm not so good at it, it can take up to from a few days to a week just to, you know, solve one problem. And that's the whole journey of it. You need to get stuck and then learn to get unstuck,
right?
And then you proceed, and that's how you learn, and, you know, get out of and it has its rewards. I like it because it gets you to problem solve, which is why I'm also in my current role, because even though it's not very complex, it's still a bit of technical side to it. But yeah, I just found out about this because prior to taking this course, I never really had to force myself or push myself to be disciplined and to just work on improving myself. Like fitness and everything else doesn't really matter to me, because I enjoy that stuff. I mean, that is something what I like. But when it comes to like improving yourself, like, you know, professionally, that's where I suck.
Right. So, you know, and so it seems like prior to this, you had done things, but it was kind of stuff that was just in your wheelhouse, you know, like, you know, fitness is hard, yes, but it's like not that hard for you. I would say like we have things that everyone has something that's hard for them. So for some people, they'll look at what you do in fitness and be like, whoa, I could never work out, you know, 5, 6, 7 days a week. But you're like, no, I like that. It's not, you know, but someone who's overweight has a different set of struggles, whereas someone in the same way might look at coding and then just make sense to them. They're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, you know, like, and like it doesn't make sense to me. So now that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone a bit, you're facing up against a little bit of that resistance. So I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you've, you know, tried to do on your own to, you know, solve this, since you've realized that this has been an issue for you?
You mean in the sense that what I try to do to avoiding coding and get myself into practicing?
No, like what have you like to help with your time management, to help with all these things, you know, the things that you're telling me you need help with, like, you know, you mentioned, you know, watch some YouTube videos or something like that. Like what are the things that you've tried? Because I want to know, what have you tried, things that have worked and things that haven't worked? Because if there's things that have worked in the past, that you're like, oh, and I used a planning journal or something like that, and it was super helpful. Okay, maybe that's a good thing. Or I tried again watching XYZ videos and that didn't help. So whatever everything is data, right? So the more data we have, if we understand what didn't work, then we can understand, okay, A, why didn't it work? B, we can skip over that when we're trying to build your thing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so mostly on YouTube, I'm all over YouTube. I mean, I spend literally every day on YouTube. That is something also that I need to fix. Because you spend endless time on YouTube. It's insane.
You spend time, the time that you need time management, and you spend that time looking up time management videos on YouTube.
Exactly. It doesn't even work.
Yeah, I get it.
So I haven't really tried any strategies because I never really thought that, hey, this is a problem that I'm facing and I need to address it, and let me look up strategies to fix it. Usually the way it works is that, let's say I've been skipping it for a while and then I panic because there's a thing in programming that if you don't code every day, then you're not going to get too far, or you're going to lag behind. So that's always at the back of my head. And if I don't do it for a while, then that guilt just builds up. And eventually it just punches you in the face like, hey, I know you're not feeling it, but you have to sit down. And some days I just convince myself that, hey, I know it's hard, but just give it 30 minutes. Just read something. And as soon as I start, then the momentum builds. Once the momentum builds, then it's hard to stop in a way, because there was a time when I first started this course, I would skip hanging out with my friends and all because I was in a good phase where things were just clicking. I was understanding things and I was able to put in more work, and I submitted the project. But then this new project came in and I had to do a little more research before I started it. And then then I started working on this weekend shift, and then I haven't looked at it in like 3 weeks now.
Right. So it seems like when you said, when you get into that place of like you're kind of skipping because it's a little bit overwhelming, you get into a place of panic and guilt, and it just kind of keeps building up and building up, and that's not a place that you want to be.
Yeah, because eventually, I mean, obviously no one wants to be in that feeling where you're feeling all guilty. And eventually I just force myself that, hey, no, I don't care how you feel, just start coding. And when I listen to that, if I just put in 1-2 hours, even if the rest of my day has been total shit, I feel really good at the end of the day. That's what matters to me, at least.
Right. And you mentioned that this has affected your your social life as well. What does that look like? So are you still like skipping out on like social events to work on this stuff? Or is that how you avoid this stuff? Or you say by now, instead of skipping social events, you're like, okay, I'm going to skip this and I'm going to actually go out with my friends. Like, how is this affecting you, your family, your friends, like that kind of thing?
So just a quick note, I don't have family here. My family is back home.
Okay.
I just have a few friends here and a girlfriend. So before I used to skip going out with my friends just to work on coding, because when I'm out with my friends, I feel like it's such a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And when I'm there, I'm like, I could have easily just stayed at home and either did my chores or something. That would have been more productive. But nowadays I can't even see my friends because they get free on the weekends, and mm-hmm. now on the weekends, so I'm not seeing them at all.
Right. And that seems like, that would may even be a bigger push to get this done, because then eventually you can change your jobs to where you're doing
exactly
what you want. But then that becomes even more overwhelming, because it's now I have to, it kind of all just snowballs in together.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I'm definitely right there with you. So, my question is, walk me through like a normal day in terms of like what your day looks like. So like in terms of what do you, when you're waking up, you're going to work, or you're working from home, are you going to work? What is your, when do you go to the gym? When are you going, to eat or do whatever your thing? Do you go to Starbucks? Do you do this? Like, what is your, like, just a normal, like, it's Monday. What does the rest of your day look like?
So let's say it's Monday. I mean, it is Monday. Um, my work starts from 9 to 1 p.m. I'm not going to go into too many details, but due to my visa issues, I can't work full time at my weekday job, right? Without going into the details of it. But within the, I usually wake up around 8:30. In the past, I used to meditate 10-15 minutes every day before I started work, but that has stopped. I've stopped doing that. I need to get back into that. Either way, I get my protein shake and I start working, right? 9 to 1 p.m. I work straight, but sometimes, more often, like 4 out of 5 days, I stay until 2 p.m. just to clear out a few things. Once I'm done working, I grab something to eat, and then I'm usually at the gym by 3:30 p.m. Then I'm in the gym for 1 hour. I come home, have another protein shake, or if I'm too hungry, then I'll just make a meal, have something to eat. After that, I shower, clean up. So that'll be about 5 to 6 p.m. And then from that time until about 10, 11, nowadays, I'm just either relaxing, taking a break, and not focusing on what I must be doing.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense.
It's horrible now that I say it out loud.
Well, listen, that's the first, that's a big part of this is just, coming, saying the stuff out loud, right? A lot of, right. So it's so funny to think something exactly like that. It's like, wow, I've never really sat and like looked at my day like that, like, and just saying that out loud like that can be a helpful step in the right direction. So let's say that, it's a year from now and it's a Monday and your day still looks exactly like you just said it is, right? That exact day that you just laid out, where you're like the exact same work, same everything, same wasting time at the end of the day. You're still doing exactly that a year from now. How does that feel?
It's horrible. I mean, why would you want to waste 5-6 hours a day?
Damn it, I don't know, maybe, plenty of people do it. Listen, I appreciate you having, like you have the momentum and the drive inside of you, because there's plenty of people who do stuff like that and don't see anything wrong with it. There's plenty of people who sit around all day and they don't, the fact that you want more out of life is a great thing. But that's, it's also a hard thing.
Yeah, definitely hard. I mean, the issue is discipline, right?
Right.
To get yourself to sit and do something that's hard, and to do it every day,
right?
Voluntarily. Yeah, that's the issue.
Right, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a big part of it, but a lot of it also is, systems, plans, accountability. These are all the different things, and these are the things that we would work on, because discipline is a great thing to have. And I've talked about this a lot on my podcast and stuff like that. It's like motivation, discipline. These are great things to have. When you have them, it's great to lean on them, right? Just like you said, some days you're going to feel good and you're just like, you're going to start coding and you're just going to be like, and you're just going to be on it for like 5 hours, but it's like, what do I do on those other days when I don't feel like that? The days where
exactly.
right. So that's how, and that's where something like this, the coaching systems that I have in place, the planning that we're going to do, goal setting, things like that. That's where that stuff becomes necessary, because a big place that most people mess up is that they go, oh, I just need more discipline. And they leave it at that, because you can't go and buy discipline at a store, right? So it's like, okay, if the answer, because this becomes like this, it becomes its own excuse, right? Because it's like, oh, I just need more discipline, as if that's something that you could just find on the street. Since you can't, that becomes the excuse forever. It's like, oh, well, like I'm just not disciplined. What can I do? It's not like when I get more disciplined, then I'll be better. But we don't just get disciplined. That's just, it's not, some people are, some people aren't. Some people are in different regards. Like you said, you're clearly very disciplined to go to the gym. You were just saying, like, if I wasn't working on the weekends, I'd be going to the gym 7 days a week. You know how many people that would make their head explode if they were like that, like they can't even go to the gym once a week, and because they don't have the discipline. But you have the discipline to do that, right? So clearly you have discipline, right? It's not, I don't lack discipline. I don't lack motivation. There's certain areas of your life that are harder to implement it in than others. But the whole thing of like, oh, well, like, yeah, no, I'm just not motivated or something like it. And when you do this subconsciously, we don't understand this happening, but it becomes like a cop out almost. It becomes its own excuse of like, okay, like when if I was only more disciplined, then that would help. But like I said, like if you can't get more disciplined, then that's that's, the example I always like to give is like, it's like telling, it's like you're telling someone who's drowning, like, oh, you just need to breathe. It's like, you're not, no shit, but you're not telling me how to do it, right? Like you're not teaching me how to swim. You're not giving me more air. You're just telling me what I already know, right? Of course I need more discipline, but like, now where do I get that? That becomes the thing. And that is, with my program, with different things like that, it's like, that's why we have things like accountability, structure, planning, goal setting. These are the things that we lean on when discipline isn't there, because, and again, sometimes discipline is there, or sometimes motivation is there. Some days you just wake up and you're like, I'm ready to just do it. Like I just feel good. And like those days are great. Like you lean on that for those days. But now the question is, what do we do on the days where that isn't there? Because those days, one, they come more often, and two, they spiral when not, right? Because again, when you have a bad day, it usually leads to another bad day. Most of the time, like you have a bad day and that you feel, like you said before, you feel guilty, you feel overwhelmed. You've done less and you have less time. And then that makes you feel more guilty and more overwhelmed. And it makes you want to, hide more. And it just kind of spirals out of control like that. So, my next question is just like, you told me that you just started this new job and you're already like, you're already added more to your plate. You have the coding on top of your plate. Understand that, getting into a coaching relationship, whatever you want to call this, this program, there is a level of time and energy commitment to this as well, right? There's a level of, I'm going to give you homeworks to do and videos to watch, and we're going to have coaching calls and things like that. So is that something that you're in a place right now where you're like, I can take the time and take the effort to do something like that?
Yeah, that should not be an issue.
Okay, awesome. So, then fast forward, right, 12 months from now, and say that the opposite, right? I just asked you again, it's a year from now and you're in the exact same place that you are, right? And you're like, that would be horrible. Okay. So now fast forward 12 months from now and say that everything went right. Say that we start working together and you get all the answers and everything went well. What does your life have to look like for you to say, like, sending that DM to Paul on Instagram was like the best decision I ever made? Like I'm wherever I want to be personally, professionally, whatever, like paint me a picture of what your day, what looks like, or what your life looks like in that sense.
In a year from now, what that would look like. So a year is a long time. So one, I would have completed my programming academy. That would be one. Two would be that in my free time, I would be like, after I finish my day job or whatever, I would be using my time productively to focus on my professional development. That could be applying for new jobs that are more coding related, could be internships, could be anything that would be a step towards my end career goal. And overall having better mechanisms or systems in place that would teach me how to utilize my free time properly, and obviously avoid going into destructive paths. So one thing about me is, when it comes to others, I'm okay, like I'll care about them and everything, and I think this applies to almost everyone. when it comes to yourself, you're just so destructive because who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, hopefully by next year, I can stop that from happening.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a huge one, and definitely understand that I talk about this a lot as well. Like I would say, we'll always do more for others than we will for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you will come home to an empty fridge with absolutely nothing and eat ramen. But if your girlfriend or like texted you like, hey, could you pick up milk on the way home? Like you would go out of your way to go to the grocery store for her, like same thing with your my mom, whatever, whoever it is, will always do more for others. And in the same way, it's much harder to see the stuff that goes on within ourselves than it is within someone else, right? In the same way that your friend can ask you for advice about, I just don't know what to do, and you're like, oh, just do this and this, because you looking in on them can see, right? Like you're not jaded by all this stuff. Like your life is you 24/7, right? Like my life is me 24/7. So I can have a conversation of you with you, and I can see the bits and pieces, but I don't get overloaded by all the other stuff. Right. Whereas it's the same thing with me, right? Like you can see like, okay, I know Paul's a coach. I know that he's, what he's wearing. I know these bits and pieces, and I can make an evaluation based on that. Whereas if I'm thinking about myself, I know how many hours I slept last night. I know what I should have slept last night. I know the workout that I skipped that no one else knows that I skipped. I know all these other things so it becomes very overwhelming and overloaded. So that's why that's one of the huge benefits of working with a coach, is that like, I can take a step back and be like, okay, like you're focusing on like this, and this, because you see all that stuff, right? It's like, but like, this is where we need to focus. And that's a big, one of, if I name, like, there's a lot of benefits to coaching, but one of the biggest ones to me is that the ability for someone else to zoom out and help you refocus. Because again, we can get caught up, like, we know all the stuff that we're supposed to be doing, right? I know what all the things, like, people always look at me like, oh, you're super productive. I run my own business and I have a podcast and I have this and that. And I'm like, but I know the times when I'm sitting at home watching 4 hours of Netflix. They don't see that part. They see all the stuff that I do, but it's like, that stuff still gets done though, right? But I still, in my head, I'm like, no, I could be more productive, right? I know I have those 4 hours, so how could I be? But like, I'll go crazy thinking about that stuff because I see it too close. So like, when we can take a step back, and again, that's why I like the term refocus, and that refocus on our goals and our actual, the important things. And that's where because we have too much energy, too much mental energy. And we start to spin ourselves in circles where it's just like, yeah, like I should have done this. And then that piles on. It's like you mentioned before, that feels like getting punched after a while, where it's just like, no, it's just too much stuff going on. So I definitely understand that. My question, now I want to go back to, so you filled out that form. One of the questions that I asked is like, on a 1 to 10 scale, how important is this to you to change this thing right now? So, my question is, you mentioned that you were a 9 out of 10 and wanting to change. So my question is like, why 9 and not like a 6 or a 7?
Oh, why not 6 or a 7?
Yeah.
Like I said, when I think about the future and when I think that I would be in the same place, that scares the shit out of me.
Okay, and now, why 9 and not a 10?
Why 9, not a 10? Because I also like to not take life too seriously. I mean,
so, go ahead.
As much as I want to improve and get the most, and take on as much as I can, and give it my all, at the end of the day, life is just temporary.
Right.
So that's why I had 9 and not a 10.
Right. I definitely understand that, but I just want you to understand like the question a little better, because I always say, like, when I phrase this question, my question isn't like, how badly do I want to do the work to get this result? Because that, like, I understand. Yeah. Like, okay, like, yeah, it would be nice, but I still have my question is just like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is for me to have that result, disregarding all the things that it takes to get it? Like, if I had a magic genie lamp and I could get the result right now, and like, what is it worth everything? Like, what, with a 1 being like, okay, like, yeah, I don't really care. I don't need to change right now. Like, I'm perfectly happy the way that I am. And I don't think that that's the case because we're on this call. And 10 being, I need this more than anything. And I will, like, this is the change that has to happen. Again, like, not understanding that, yes, you still want to live my life, and I still want to have, like that's a different part of this. My question is really more specifically about like the change that you came here wanting to talk about. How important is it for you to get that specific thing? Like you just said, I don't want to be stuck in the same place a year from now. That scares the shit out of me.
I mean, I know if I don't make the changes that I need to make, I'm going to continue on a path that is not well designed by me, and it will be a path that would be based on, hey, you don't have any other option.
Right. So just understand the reason I'm asking, the reason I have to hammer around this question a little bit is because there's a thing that, you might have heard before, like people change when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change, right? Or you might have heard people hit rock bottom. When people want to change 8 or 9 out of 10, they're giving themselves an out. You're giving yourselves wiggle room. People only change when it's absolutely necessary, right? Because change is hard, because it's annoying, because I have to do things that I don't want to do. So if I'm an 8 or a 9 committed, it's actually worse than being a 5, because I've tricked myself again to be like, I'm a 9, like that's pretty close. Like, yeah, like I'm almost at a 10. At least if I'm a 5, I know I'm half-assing it. Like I'm gonna be like, yeah, like, okay, like I don't really want it that bad. Like whatever, I'm cool with that. When I'm like an 8 or a 9, it's like, okay, like, yeah, like I really, really want it, but I just can't be all in committed. And that gives myself, I heard a quote the other day, which is like, it's easier to be 100% committed than it is to be 98% committed. Because if you're 100% committed, you're all in. That's it. Point blank, period. There's no wiggle room. There's no out of that. If you're 98% committed, 99% committed, then it's like, you always have that back door ready to just like, yeah, but we're always ready to step out. And that's why people don't get the result, is because they leave themselves that, you might have heard the term, sometimes you got to burn the boats, right? Like sometimes you have to just say like, I'm all in on this thing, like buying a course like that is a perfect example, right? Like I'm going to go, like this course is 6 months and I got to finish it in that time. Like there's no like wiggle room out of it, except that I could just not finish it, right? Like I already spent the money. Like, what happens if I don't finish it? Like, again, no one knows but me. Like I'm going to know, I'm going to feel like shit about it, but like my mom isn't going to call me up and scold me or anything like that. So like, if I'm 100% committed, I'll find a way. If I'm 98% committed, which you are, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But then it's like, the night comes, okay, like I'll finish it tomorrow, like that. And that stuff kind of keeps like wiggling its way in, that little bit of like, yeah, maybe not,
That's a good one. I mean, I am committed. I mean, how do I say this? Even though I did say a 9 out of 10, I mean, how do I get out of that now? But yeah, I am willing to do what it's gonna take to get there. And I am gonna get there. It's just about getting there on time or getting there later. And I guess that's where you come in, right? Because let's say even if we did not jump in on this call, I would have gone back to, I mean, that cycle or that loop would have repeated itself, where the guilt is overwhelming and then I have to go back in and start studying and work on it. Because that is my goal right now. That's all I'm focused on.
Right.
But yeah, I am committed. I'm going to do what it's going to take.
Right. And I believe that. And I see obviously that, there's a reason you reached out, but also understand that there's a difference between doing it and doing it on time. That sometimes you like to say like, I can do it, it just won't be on time. Exactly. Like, sometimes on time doesn't matter, right? If I'm just talking about a random, I want to be better, there's no time limit for that. But some things do have a time limit on them, right? So there's a difference in there. And there's also a thing, I just had a big breakthrough conversation with one of my clients today. And he was talking about, his thing was like diet and exercise and stuff like that. But he was just talking about like how, he's always trying to force his way through dieting. And like, he eats well for a while, but then he doesn't eat well. And then he beats himself up about it. It's the same cycle that you go through, right? It's like, I'm doing the thing and then I skip and then I feel bad about it, whatever. But he was like, yeah, like, I just feel like every time that I have to do it, I'm just like, I hate it. And I'm doing it out of spite kind of. And I'm like, but I'll still get it done. But then like, I hate that I'm just mad at it or whatever. And I was just like, we don't no, I've never heard of someone being successful out of spite or anger, like, or out of doing it out for the wrong reasons. Like no one's ever created a successful business because they hated something so much. Right. No one's ever gotten, like, don't get me wrong, once in a while, like someone will lose a bunch of weight because they hate their ex so much or something like that. But usually they'll gain it right back or something like that.
Yeah.
In general, like if we don't do things for the right reasons. So that's why you're saying, like, even though you have, like, you're like, okay, like eventually, like, I'll just like, I'll feel so guilty about it that I'll just end up doing it. It's like, that's like I mean, it's better than not getting it done, but if we're doing it for the wrong reasons, it ingrains this negative connotation in my head. So now, because I'm only doing it out of guilt and spite for myself, I associate the thing that I need to do the most, which is the coding, with guilt and spite. So now, like, those two things become linked, and now I have even less like for the coding because I'm always doing it out of guilt, whereas if I could get it, what you just said, I want to get it done. Like, this is something I chose to do. No one's forcing this down your throat. You chose to get it done. If I can get to a place where I'm doing it because I want to, because it's something I'm passionate about, because there's a million positive reasons to do it. Now it's a different thing, right? Thanksgiving is coming up here in America. And, it's always a huge thing. The day after Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday, and everyone always has off from work on that Friday, the day after. And the Friday after Thanksgiving is always the biggest day at the gym because everyone's off from work and everyone ate like a fucking wildebeest the day before, right? And people always come into the gym when I was working at the gym and be like, oh my God, like I need to burn off all these calories. Like I'm gonna burn it off. I'm gonna whatever. I would go to the gym the day after on a Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I would have eaten like shit on Thursday. And like, I would just be like, okay, like I'm going to just use all those extra calories and I'm going to have such a heavy squat day. Like, it's just going to be such good fuel for my workout. It's the same thing ostensibly, but one is a punishment and one is me fueling my body and feeling good about like what I'm doing. So like one of those things is like, oh, I have to go to the gym to burn off all these calories. One of them is like, oh yes, like I get to go to the gym. I'm going to hit a squat PR. Like this is going to be crazy. Thank you to the food I ate yesterday, because that's the fuel for my body. So it's the same result. If all I'm looking at is the result of like, okay, did I get my workout done? Yeah. Yes. Both people got their workout done, but one of them is in a much more healthy way. And one of them is probably going to keep working out, where the other person is going to promote a negative relationship with exercise because it's now a punishment or whatever else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I appreciate what you said though, about you're really ready to make this a priority. And it seems like, you're ready to make this happen now, because again, as you said a few times, like to be in the same spot, to be going through these same cycles over and over a year, 2 years, 5 years from now is just not really an option for you. So, is there anything else that I didn't ask that you think I need to know, or just anything that you want to bring up or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Awesome.
No, I don't think so.
All right, awesome. So, I mean, obviously, based on everything you've told me, I do think that, working together, what I'm doing, with my coaching programs and everything, is definitely something that can help you, because, things like time management and, getting kind of wound up and getting in your own head, lacking accountability, lacking structure, these things, they seem like logical problems, which they are, but there's also a heavy emotional component to them, where we talk about, again, the feelings aspect and why is it that I'm doing the thing, right? Again, same thing I was talking about, the discipline. Discipline, well, just be more disciplined. Time management, well, just manage your time better. Well, like, again, if that was the answer, it would already be done, right? So there's something behind the thing that is causing you to make these decisions, right? You're acting against your own best interests, right? You're sitting here telling me, I know what I have to do. I know that I want to do it. I know why I want to do it. And yet each day I get to the end of the day and I don't do that thing, right? So like, clearly there's a disconnect there. And that's where what we have to kind of start to dig into and uncover. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because, from my own personal stories with this stuff, it's like my thing was, a long time ago, not that long ago, but whatever. When I was, drinking a lot and partying a lot, and really, and again, I didn't think I had like a drinking problem, which now kind of looking back, I'm like, I probably did. I was like going out and partying like 4 or 5 nights a week or whatever, but it was like fine because I was, I was working, I was still working at a full-time job. I was still bringing in money. So it's like in my head, I'm like, it was all good. It was fine or whatever. So like when I thought about like stopping drinking, it was always like, even if I tried, I would just kind of find myself back there. But it wasn't until I went a layer deeper and kind of understood, like, again, oh, just stop drinking. Oh, duh, but it wasn't until I went a layer deeper and understood, like, okay, the reason that I was drinking and the reason that I was doing was because, the identity that I had in place was like the fun party guy, like that was like who I wanted to be. So like my friends all knew me as like the guy who like, we would all go to a party and I would be the drunkest one. Like I had to make sure that like I was taking more shots than everyone else. And like, I would be, and then once I was able to let go of that identity, then I could then it was like, oh, I didn't need to drink anymore because it's like, now that it was just a different thing. Right. So it's the same thing with like, I don't know what the answer is, but the point is that it usually goes a layer or two deeper than to just be like, oh, just don't do the thing. Right. Same thing with eating, same thing with exercise, all this stuff. It's like, oh, okay, eat less and move more. Everyone knows that for exercise, and yet 80% of the world is still obese. Right. So like, there's always a layer under the thing. And like, that's kind of what we would dig into. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about like what the actual system that I use. And like, if you want to, again, take notes, then you're welcome to. So basically I have a program that's called Brain, Body, and Being. It's called the 3B solutions, brain, body, being, because, just like with the healthy, happy human, I always say that these things are all interconnected, right? So health and happiness, brain and body, and your being, your whole life, these things, you can't take one out. They're pillars, right? Each one affects the other. If I'm not physically healthy, I'll never be mentally happy. And if I'm not mentally happy and feeling good, no amount of physical fitness will make my life feel full and complete. And if I'm not doing both of those things, then the being side, the human side, I will not have the good connections with my friends. I will not have the good connections with my girlfriend. I will not be the person that I want to be. I will always be, as you said, being harder on myself in private, and not, and taking things out on myself when I know that I shouldn't. So I have there's 3 pillars inside of my system. The first pillar is called Crack Your Habit Code. And Crack Your Habit Code is all about building, understanding, and maintaining habits. Because habits, people throw this word around a lot, right? Like, oh, build healthy habits and stuff like that, which is extremely important, because what a habit is, it's something that has become habituated to the point that you don't have to consciously think about it anymore, right? So that's why everyone wants to be habit, right? So if I need to exercise every day and I don't like exercising, but I can make it a habit where I don't even think about it, like, that seems like a great solution. It's like, okay, I get to do all the hard things and I don't even have to try because it's just a habit, right? But the thing is that everyone habituates things differently, meaning, just like I was saying before, just how you have an exercise habit where you go 5, 6, 7 days a week, and yet other people cannot get into that habit. And just like other people will live on spreadsheets. Like I know everyone, you have a friend, we all have friends who like their Google Calendar looks like it was like color coded by the gods, where they have every single thing perfectly timed, they're there every minute on the thing, and like they're good at that habit. So the thing that we need to do first is understand the science of habits, and then use that to start building habits based around your bigger goal. So it's specifically rather than taking you and trying to make you fit into whatever set of habits or whatever specific box, we're building the thing around you, right? Because your habits specifically that's why I asked about what your day looks like and what your time looks like, like certain things like morning routines, evening routines. Some people work better with evening routines. Some people work better with morning routines. Some people work better with, planning on the weekends for the entire week. Some people do daily planning, but it's about finding what works for you specifically and cracking your unique habit code, and then using what we find to build specifically your specific habits towards your bigger goal. So that's pillar 1. And then pillar 2 is what I call the psychological success switch. And the psychological success switch is, again, all of this is the reason that this is so specific and why these calls are so long. This first call is because I need to understand that every person is unique, and what your issues are specific to you. But as I said, they still relate to the overall human, right? Just like I was saying before, like, yes, like your thing is time management and, and needing more structure. But if we dig a layer deeper, it really also is self-sabotage, right? Like you sabotage yourself. So that's the same thing as someone who's on a diet and always at the end of the day eats a whole tray of Oreos instead of going to sleep. Or it's the person who has a work, deadline to hit and they instead watch Netflix all day instead of whatever, it's like, so it's like they're different, but they're actually the same. So understanding human psychology and the why behind the what is the key to having the answer, right? The awareness is the first step of every change, right? Just like you were just saying, like, okay, like what, just looking at my day. And like when I had you just list out your whole day and you were like, oh shit, like I didn't even realize how many hours that I like actually am just dicking around here. And just by having awareness of it, you might actually make a change around it. So a big part of this is we make ourselves aware of the psychological factors that are holding us back. Things like we talk, some topics we talk about are perfectionism, all or nothing thinking, imposter syndrome, like just all these topics that most humans will deal with. And again, the topics vary, but awareness, then education, because it's like, what do I, all right, once I understand that, I'm self-sabotaging. Okay. Like I get it. Education is, okay, now what are some tactics that I can use to stop that? Because it's one thing to just know about it. Now I have to understand, okay, now what do I do about it? And then the last step is action. So I take action against whatever the thing is, because all the education in the world, like you've learned from watching a ton of YouTubes, won't do anything if we don't actually take action with it. So it's a 3-step system inside the psychological success switch. And then the third pillar, is, and this is, some people say the biggest, most important part of the whole thing. My past clients have always told me that this is the most helpful part, is called PPP, or pre-problem planning. Basically, everyone who does any type of thing like this, any type of big change, again, it can be dieting, it can be building a business, it can be changing your time schedule, it can be anything that's a big change, like we just said, is hard. You're not going to want to do it. Point blank, period. We know that. There are going to be times where roadblocks pop up, where you have the best plan and then something happens, or you just aren't motivated, or you're just not feeling disciplined. These things, it's not a question of if they will happen, it's a question of when will they happen, because we know that they will happen. We know that you're going to start and you're going to want to quit. We know that you're going to start and you're going to have everything scheduled out, and then something is going to run late and that's going to throw you off. And then you're going to want to say, screw it. Like all of these things, I know for a fact that will happen. So instead of what most people do is they run around putting out fires as they come, right? They're doing good. Doing good. And then something happens. They're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. It throws them off. They start back at square one. What we do with pre-problem planning is we plan for these things ahead of time and we troubleshoot everything before it happens. So we already know, okay, when you wake up, when you have a day where you're not feeling disciplined, where you just want to say fuck it and you just want to come home from work, even though you're supposed to do 2 hours of programming and you want to just turn on Netflix and like just say fuck the world or whatever it is. Like, what do we do in that situation? Okay, like let's do it. And then we have the accountability structures in place where you're like, actually, I'm checking in on you to make sure that you're doing those things, to make sure that, okay, we knew this was going to happen. We have a plan in place for when it happens. And now what are you doing when it happens? Rather than just being like, oh, like I just got, like everything was, because I would say people always, this is how people work. They do good when it's easy, but then when it's hard, they're like, oh, well, it got hard. But I'm like, when it's easy, that's like, you don't even count those. That's like, you're playing the game on easy mode, right? When you wake up motivated and your fridge was already full and you meal prepped and everything that everything runs on time and your email loads and everything else like that. It's like, okay, like good job. You did it. It's the days when you wake up late because you set your alarm for PM instead of AM, and then you miss the bus or your Uber comes late, and then also like you were supposed to go to whatever, your internet isn't working, like all the shit is fucked up, and now you're like, you want to just throw in the towel because it's like, okay, like this isn't what I signed up for. But those are days that are always coming. That's what I was just saying. Like, it's not a question of if that's going to happen, it's a question of when. So if I leave myself in a situation where every time a bad day comes, it's going to throw me off track, I end up in this cycle of start, hit a hard point, start again, start, hit a hard point, start again. As opposed to what we can do is start. We plan for this. The hard point comes, we and then we just keep going. And that's all it is, right? That's how you create long-term change, because now all of a sudden over the course of 6 months, you haven't started and stopped 10 times. You've just kept going for the entire length of the time. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here.
Awesome. So do you feel like this is like a program like this is something that, would help you, that it's
Yeah,
something that would get you to where you're wanting to go with your,
definitely.
with your time management? Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. Sure. So, I mean, it sounds like you're ready to go. I feel good about the process. It seems like you're in the right space, and this is exactly where you need to be. Is this something that you want to learn more about?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Awesome. So, I mean, the way the program works, it's, again, the 3B solution is a 24-week program. So just about 3 months. And the total price for the 24 weeks is 2,000 USD. I don't know how much that translates to in Australian. But yeah, so it's a 24-week program, and that comes with the system, which means we're doing, there's pre-planned lessons, being like, here's the lessons for the week. There's one-on-one coaching calls with me. There's group calls, and then there's also round the clock accountability, where, again, we're planning for the things that you have coming up. So at the beginning of the week, I'm going to ask you something like, okay, what are our goals for this week? We're going to go over goals. We're going to do X. We're going to do goal setting. I'm going to ask you, okay, what are the things that are coming up this week that might throw you off those goals? So you're going to say, well, like, I'm supposed to do, this much coding, but my girlfriend's birthday is on Thursday and we're going out for dinner. And so I really actually probably need to get it all done by Wednesday night, which means that I have to actually double up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, okay, so we know that that's good, rather than waiting till Wednesday and going like, oh shit, I have the birthday tomorrow, and like, now I'm falling behind, and now I'm spiraling out, now I'm whatever. We make a plan for that. And now I'm reaching out to you, and you're hopefully reaching back out to me to make sure that you're staying on task with these things. And we're just kind of going back and forth like that. That makes sense?
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, how do you feel? Is that something that you want to get started with?
If I'm being completely honest, I think the price is a bit too high for me. And I don't want to sound like a douche because, I took up 1 hour from your time. Which is why I started with how much do you charge? But yeah, let me think on it. Let me think about it.
So, I mean, I understand, the price. My question is, when it comes to the price, when you say too high, is this something that like feels like it's not worth it, or is it feels like you're
No,
just
it's
not
because
ready to
I'm not.
invest?
No, it's not like it's not worth it. If I had the money for it, I would pay for it right now. So the issue is, for the past, I don't know, a year or so, due to my visa, I can't work full time. I can only work 20 hours per week. And so that would mean that, I mean, I don't want to go into too many details of it, but that just means, I mean, in the past 1 year, I haven't been making a lot of money. And so for me to cough up $2,000 would be a bit tough. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the course is not worth it. It's 100% worth it. I think the system would be great. But the issue is, if I put in that much amount of money, there's one, I have to pay my fees. That's ongoing thing. And second would be, I'm moving out soon with my girlfriend, so that's going to take a bit of my money. And I just think, is there like an installment thing that you do, or is this like a fixed one payment?
Right. So that's what I was just going to ask. Would it be helpful to you to break it up over the course of the 3 months? We could do either in thirds, one today, and then, or if you want to do like 50-50, what would be helpful for you?
I would have to really get back to you on this. I don't want to make a decision on the spot right now.
So, I mean, I understand. I appreciate that. I appreciate you wanting to, think about it. I just always, putting my coaching hat on, I always want to just push and think if this is, if this is truly what you think is best, after this call, and I do think that I can help you, I do want to make sure that we're trying to be a little bit creative here, so that's why I'm saying I'm open to working with payment structures or something like that, but what's going to change, or what do you need to think about that would make difference? Because I'll just be honest, most people either commit or don't, right? And it's to any, especially when we're talking about money, and most people will say like, I'm going to think about it, but then they end up going back to their old habits and their old routines, and they end up back in the same cycles where they just were. Most people don't get off a call like this or leave a situation like this and actually go think about it, right? You're going to go to work, you're going to go about your normal day, you're going to go just back to doing the things that you've been doing, right? You're going to forget about this call, and you're going to just, I'm at work, and then I'm coming home, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm doing all the same things that I'm doing. So, if this isn't the right thing, then that's fine. But if it's something that you feel is right, then I always say like the universe rewards people who take action. And sometimes we just have to, even though it's a little bit scary, and we have to just rip the Band-Aid off. And I say like, yeah, like, and that's why I asked about the 10 out of 10 commitment, right? Because this is the 9 out of 10 commitment coming back right now, of being like, yeah, like I'm pretty committed, but like shit,
Go for 100. No, let me just, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting right now, but it's not that I don't want to go forward with this. It's not that I don't think this is going to work and that the coaching won't help. This is exactly what I thought it would be and what I need right now. The only issue is the financial side of things.
Okay, for sure. So I mean, that's fine. So then my question is like, going forward, what do you need to know? Like, what are you looking for? And then like to get back to me to be like with a yes or a no, because I want to know, you can yes or no either way as well, just for my own, like, okay, are we doing this or not? So, what does that look like? What are you looking for? And then like, when would you let me know, and how would that look?
Give me a quick second.
I mean, I can wait right now if you want to go check out, I can pause this and you can go check out whatever you need to.
That's almost like $3,000 Australian. Yeah, it's a bit too pricey for me, Paul. I'm not in a financially place where I can put in 3,000 for a course. If I was working, again, this is all ifs and whats, but if I was working full-time and I had a stable job, I would be all in right now, no issues, because I know I have a steady income and I'm also saving up. But right now I'm working only 20 hours a week, and the other money, and if I put in $3,000, I would have to kill myself on the weekends to get back to this much amount of money.
I completely understand. I don't want to push you, I just, it's this weird thing of like being where like, you're like, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to get to a point where I'm making more money, right? Like I want to finish the coding thing. And like, I want to be doing this. And then I know that in a year, right? You just told me if a year from now comes that, and I would feel like how I would feel if I'm in the same place. So if a year from now comes and I'm in the same place versus a year from now comes and I have $3,000 less, but I've finished my coding course and I've done all these things, like which one of those is the scenario that I want to be in?
I see where you're coming from. It completely makes sense. It completely makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. Like, don't get me wrong, because again, I've done stuff. I've been in the exact situation that you're in right now. I've been on calls like this, where I've been like investing, and mine has been more in business stuff, where I've been invested, $5,000-$10,000 in coaching or something like that. And I'm just like that. It's an absurd amount of money to cough up, and I get that, and it makes, and I'm right there with you. But at the same time, as they say in the personal development space, nothing changes if nothing changes. And like, sometimes we have to do something that makes us a little bit scared. And sometimes that money thing is going to be the thing that also kicks you in the ass to be like, fuck, I better work.
That is true. That works.
I gotta work on my coding shit. Like I gotta make sure that I do this. I gotta take this seriously, because I understand that people, when people pay, they pay attention. And the stuff that, like, 100%. Right. So it's like one of those things of like, don't get me wrong, all the stuff, I've done plenty for free. I do podcasts, I do social media, I do, everything I do is for free. And there's plenty of people who are just like, they don't pay attention because it's free, because it's just some other, it's just another, there's YouTube University is free. As you know, there, you can go on there and find all the stuff. And there's a level of like, if I want to create this change, I'm going to have to stick my neck out a little to where it's a little bit uncomfortable. Again, we can break up the payments, and you're not paying the full thing up front. You're going to pay, a third today, a third in a month from now, a third in the beginning of next year. And it's going to be scary and uncomfortable, but also 3 months from now, when you have your coding finished and you're able to actually now start preparing for a new job, and you're able to feel better, not just about the job thing, but get that pressure, that weight off your shoulders of where can I go from here? Like, now that I'm done with this thing, now that I'm not just moving in that same circle of start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. I'm not looking at myself in the same way. I'm feeling confident, all these different things. That to me has a immense amount of value beyond just money,
No, I'm with you 100%, but I just can't put in this much amount of money.
All right, dude.
My total savings in my bank account right now, I'm going to be completely honest, and this is being recorded, is right now I have $5,000 in my bank account.
I understand. Listen.
And that's AUD. So if I put in 3,000 over there, I got 2,000 left, and that's
right. I got you. But again, listen, again, if you want to stretch it out, we can. If you want to, make this something, you can. But if you're not, I'm not, it's your decision at the end of the day. I'm still here, in the future, if you want to, if you change your mind. But again, as I understand, as I've seen this enough times, I know that most people, when they don't decide, they don't decide, and then the same thing kind of replays over and over again. So, it's not, 1,000 or, Aussie today is not, still leaves you with some, you have your two jobs. I don't like to do, like, I understand everyone is in their own financial place. I don't like to ever assume other people's money, but again, you're working. And if this is something that change is that important to you, sometimes you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to make that change. And that uncomfortable situation might be spending more money than you feel comfortable with, because that's the way that you're going to get yourself to be the person that you want to be. And in the grand scheme of things, again, over, right now, that's a lot of money. But when you finish and when you have all the things that you're talking about, when you are that person a year from now, like you just told me who you want to be, that money is a drop in the bucket, as opposed to being in the same place, being stressed, overwhelmed, and you already said, like, I can't be there. You said I would kill myself, like that, like that's I know you were joking, but I'm just saying that's like, that's a big deal. So, like, if, again, I'm not saying that it's comfortable. I'm not saying that it's even logical to do something like this, but I am saying that sometimes that this is the necessary step to change your life. And I don't think that you can put a price on changing your life, to the level that you just told me you need was the word that you used,
I'm going to have to think about it, Paul.
All right. Think about it. I'm here. If you, whatever changes, whatever happens, I'm here. But just actually think about it. Like I said, most people, when they say they're going to think about it, they don't. They just go back. They just go about their day. I'm always here regardless, but just, think about it and reach back out, because I do know that this is something that could really, really help you.
No, I completely understand, and I'm there with you. I know this is going to help me, and yeah. Anyways, I'm going to have to get going. Work starts in a bit.
For sure. 100%. I understand. All right. I'll reach back out if I don't hear from you, but just I'm here either way.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good day, bud.
Thanks, Paul.
No problem.